We got a great guest for tonight. One of the president's sons, the executive VP of the Trump Organization, Eric Trump. Eric, thank you for joining us tonight.
It's great to be on, Chris.
Eric, only thing that matters to me is to say, man, I'm so sorry for what you guys had to deal with on Saturday. How are you guys doing? How did you handle it as a family? How confident are you that he'll be safe from now on?
Yeah. I can't answer the last one because I'm not. I mean, based on the Secret Service director's answers that, she couldn't put snipers up on the roof because of the massive slope when you have a roof that's like this, Chris. I'm not sure if I can answer that question, but listen, we're doing well. He's doing well. He's the toughest guy I've ever met in my life. I was watching my two young children, 6 years old, 4 years old, and we pretty much watched, my father get assassinated, their grandfather get assassinated. He stood up, he had blood running down the side of his face. That's not a moment I'll ever forget. Exactly 48 hours later, I was the delegate from the state of Florida that cast a deciding ballot that made him the Republican nominee for president of the United States. And so you have these lows in life, and then you have these highs in life, and we certainly felt all of those in a 24-hour period of time. But, Chris, the love of this room is tremendous, and I'm sure you're seeing it. I'm sure you're reporting on it. But, these are people that love this country. They love our nation. They love our flag. They're great people. They're in here dancing, waving the American flags, and having a wonderful time. And when he came out that night, it was tears across the room. He realized he could have been dead. Had he not moved his face 1 inch, by divine intervention, he was even doing that slide at that point. Normally he does at the end of the speeches. He would have been dead right now. You would have had a former president and very likely a future president get executed, shot in the head on national TV that was being broadcast by you guys and frankly all around the world. And we better be better than that as Americans. We better be better than that as Americans. We deserve more out of leadership. We deserve more out of protection. We deserve more out of a lot of things, but that can't happen. It just can't happen.
Well, it did. The question is why, how you stop it, and how you get us to a better place, because who knows if the guy did it because of what he heard from or about your father. It doesn't really matter to me. You got to figure out how the security broke down. I'm with you on that 100%, but I don't care about the guy's motivations. I just agree with you. We have to be better. Give me a personal read, if you don't mind, Eric, what you want the audience to understand about how your father processed what happened to him and what he communicated to your kids about what they saw and how it affected him.
Yeah, well, he called me from the hospital. I think that was the first phone call that he made, and obviously let me know he was okay. And it was a kick to the stomach, to say the least, when you're seeing that. I mean, Chris, you didn't know. Obviously, you saw blood coming out of his face, but you heard multiple shots. You didn't know if he took shots to the torso. You didn't know where else he was hit. You didn't know if any of those agents were hit. And the girl that was just on the screen, and I've been defending her relentlessly. She's one of the finest agents you'll ever meet. She was with me for a 3-year period of time. She is the greatest, the best. I would do anything for her, and she would have taken a bullet for my father, and every agent on that stage would have taken a bullet for my father. And it breaks my heart that they arrived with him 15 minutes before the rally, and they're put in the position that they were put in. So I am in total defense of those incredible people on the screen right now because they're the best of the best, where I am in total, we must find out what happened on that perimeter, though. I mean, we just have to. But listen, he was strong. He got off that stage, and he said, fight, fight, fight. And you've covered it for years. You and I have known each other for years. This has been his life for the last 8 years. This has been my life. I've been subpoenaed 110 times. They've impeached him. They've tried to divide our family. They've gone after him. They wanted to bankrupt him. They've thrown phony charge after phony charge on him. You guys know a lot about those. Like, I mean, every way that they could use politics to attack a family, they weaponize the system. And he's been dealing with this. And I went on a show, and I'm not proud of this, Chris, but I went on a show a month ago, and I said, I'm fearful that they'll try and kill him. And I'm not a tinfoil hat wearing guy. I think you know that about me. I'm not that guy. And then we ended up where we were on Saturday evening, and it's scary as hell. But I think it does change your outlook on life. I do think it changes your message. When you have a brush with death like that, I think you probably realize what's important in life and what's not. What battles you want to pick and what you don't, what you want your legacy to be. And I definitely think that had input on the speech that he's going to give tomorrow night, literally right after I speak.
Well, listen, I just, I wanted to leave you guys alone in the moment to process, but, politics fades fast when it gets to this type of level of violence, level of fear. I remember when it was my father and when it was my brother, and they would even have threats, how shaking that would be to the family. So you get nothing but my heart.
That's right.
And I wish the best for the family with this. And I'm very surprised how fast he came back. I mean, forget about in that moment, you know, how brave he was, and that's the only way to see it. But the resilience is impressive. Hey, thank you for watching.
More questions this morning over the security failures that allowed Thomas Crooks to get a direct shot at former President Trump on Saturday. Sources tell Fox News that Butler Township police flagged the Secret Service over a lack of manpower near the building that Crooks scaled and shot from. A New York Post headline says, quote, Trump rally shooter Thomas Crooks tracked ex-president's appearances for months. 3 people were shot at the rally, 1 fatally. Right now in Pennsylvania, private funeral underway for Corey Comparatore. The volunteer fire chief died while shielding his family in the crowd. Let's bring in Kara Frederick, former DOD counterterrorism analyst. And Kara, the big question in this investigation is how in the world that rooftop was left uncovered. In the world of the Secret Service and presidential campaign events, it is an absolute no-no for an elevated platform with line of sight to where the president is going to be to remain either unblocked or unprotected. Do you have any theories as to what might have happened?
No, I think we're clearly not getting the full picture here because, as you intimated, this is physical security 101. And the fact that that rooftop was not secured is a massive oversight. So in terms of theorizing on what happened, it is critical for a security plan to have your local law enforcement, to have your state officials, and to have your federal authorities all coordinating. It appears that there was some sort of lapse in coordination here. But what I think the bigger question is there are reports that he was surveilling President Trump's movements over the course of months. How do we not know how he was surveilling? Do we, what digital platforms was he using to do it? Every type of sensor that the world is saturated with right now emits what we call a digital exhaust. They should be able to track down his geolocation based off of the digital surveillance platforms he was supposedly using. They should have a pattern of life for this kid. They should have content emanating out of that to paint a more fulsome intelligence picture to get after this guy. The fact that that wasn't done beforehand, and it doesn't appear to be, they don't appear to be exploiting that data, at least accurately for the public to see now. This is a massive oversight as well.
You know, an intriguing little development in all of this, according to Congressman Michael Waltz from Florida, in that briefing with the Secret Service and the FBI, members of Congress were told that Crooks had 3 encrypted accounts on overseas platforms. I don't think the nature of the platforms was described. We don't know if they were financial accounts or if they were social media accounts or some other kind of account. But now there appears to be some sort of international component to all of this.
Yeah, and I think this is so interesting, too. But as something I did for almost 10 years with the government and then with the big tech company, what you do is you can extract data from these platforms. You can figure out, you know, who were these platforms that he was supposed to be using, even if they were encrypted. Who was he talking to? What are his IP addresses? Can you geolocate him to those physical locations? This is something tech companies can do. Was he using aliases? Are there any? What are the connections to that network via those platforms? Like you said, we don't know the nature of those encrypted overseas accounts, but there are people who are in the government, even who are outside of the government, who can work to exploit that information that those accounts would convey. So the hearing next week should give us a lot of answers because this is happening. The public is just not aware of what actually is going on.
All right, so we've got hearings next week, but a bigger question in all of this is, given the security failures and how these erupted and the fact that we know almost nothing about Crooks and what his motivations might have been, does there need to be in the wake of the Kennedy assassination, the Warren Commission was struck. Now, a lot of that was political cover for Lyndon Johnson, but do we need to have something of that level to look into this?
Oh, I completely agree with that. Yes, Congress has oversight capabilities. And you look at the senators trying to track down the head of Secret Service as she's walking away from them. That is a reverse of how this is supposed to work, right? Our senators and our representatives, they represent the American people, and the heads of those federal agencies, they work for us. They work for us. She should not be evading those questions. There's a measure of transparency here that the American people are owed, because I'll tell you what, John, this does not pass the smell test. The fact that a 20-year-old would not have a heavy social media presence or minimal presence at all, and that in the face of that, he would have better operational security than the seasoned al-Qaeda operatives that I tracked down over the course of years. doesn't pass the smell test. The American people deserve answers. Let's give it to them, Congress.
And if one 20-year-old kid can breach security as this one did, imagine if it was actually, if you know, we've heard that Iran wanted to take the president out. If they sent an actual trained team, God, you know, God knows what would have happened that day. Kara, great to talk to you. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Phony. Phony. Relentlessly. Relentlessly. Torso. Torso. Erupted. Erupted. Exploit. Exploit. Emanate. Emanate. Saturate. Saturate. Intriguing. Intriguing. Fulsome. Fulsome. Emit. Emit.
If you enjoy this content, please consider subscribing to my channel to stay up to date with future videos. Thank you for watching.